The guards order to protect the princess and not let the enemies through at any cost. The man then declares that the situation has worsened and that a temporary retreat is necessary, and calls Lobelia Crowley a notorious dishonest robber. Crowley smiles as the wolves growl and approach. One of the guards is surprised that there is nowhere else to retreat. Lobelia Crowley raises her hand and a magical grimoire with an eye appears floating in front of her. Then the butler and the guards say that they are finished. Lobelia Crowley uses advanced fire magic called the Infinite Circle. Following this, he asks what the guards are looking at, surprised by his actions. The guard asks if he is connected to the rebels, and Lobelia Crowley explains to forget about it and gives him a secret potion with a healing effect stronger than high-class potions. Meanwhile, one hopes that this is true. He is surprised by the healing of his bitten-off hand in a second, and the princess thanks the master magician for saving her. And then he says to leave the gratitude, that he was guided only by the desire not to waste time, and she is surprised that he really saved them and explains that she should thank him. The butler asks to simply listen to him and not help the magician. Julius calls Crowley an arrogant magician, and does not understand what prompted the magician to do this. The guards were surprised that this very arrogant mage had helped them and turned their weapons against him. Julius then led the princess away. Lobelia Crowley warns the knight that in the west he will encounter a guild of heroic knights protecting the princess. Crowley says these heroes are only smart enough to help, and the knight doesn't understand why he needs this information. Crowley shut the boy up and explained that otherwise the princess would not be able to survive. He asks to convey a message to the grumpy old man. The knight agreed to help. Lobelia Crowley smirks as she calls herself an arrogant magician. The princess looks out the window of a carriage drawn by 2 horses as it travels along the road. She ends up asking Julius why everyone was wary of that man, and he explains that he is a villain with a bad reputation, although she doesn't think he is bad. He tells her that his name is Lobelia Crowley, an arrogant magician, after which he explains that despite being educated at a high magical academy, Crowley used his enormous power for personal gain and hurt people, and also says how many people lost their homes and lives. He claims that he has earned the name of the devil and should not be messed with. When she wonders why someone being hunted would need a reason to save her and repeats the question, he explains that he cannot fathom the thoughts of the unchanged who study dark magic. She says she felt no malice from the man, as from her father, who was killed for tyranny, and says he said it without expectation of reward. The princess recalls that Lobelia Crowley spoke about the importance of using time effectively and admires him. The guard makes a small offer. If you explain the situation, they might help, which is better than running away without a plan. The man then explains that the legendary Order of Knights can help. He asks if they're coming, and the knight adds that he can't tell Julius that this was the advice of an arrogant mage. He explains that when Crowley summoned them, he thought they would be killed, but if the mage hadn't shown up, they would have died. Even with swords pointed at him, he worries about their safety. The knight thinks Lobelia Crowley might not be as bad as rumors make her out to be. Meanwhile, Cito Arima greets and introduces himself to Crowley. He was a 23-year-old part-time worker and marvels that he never thought he would find himself in one of these situations. And then he explains that he has been reborn as the most vile villain, kneeling by the water to see himself in the reflection. In the classic RPG Arcadia Fantasy, a popular phone game has consistently topped user ratings. At the same time, the story is told of a hero blessed by the daring fire, saving the world with his beloved. He is the chosen hero, adored by the girls and given their absolute trust. Lobelia Crowley claims he is the reincarnation of history's most hated villain, who sits among the world's 12 most powerful and seeks forbidden dark magic. Moreover, Lobelius's diary shows that he has fully mastered dark magic. He explains that he has become this character and is forced to speak in this tone, then is surprised that Lobelia dies at the end. Furthermore, he claims that Lobelia's death means his death as well, so he seeks to avoid it at all costs and wishes to be rewarded with a good ending since Lobelia is his favorite character. He claims that Lobelia is the most tragic character, but he is loved the most because of his past. He ended up living with his sick father and his younger sister Eru, and the 3 of them were free from troubles despite their poverty. He reports that he has not found a job today, does not want to steal anymore, and claims that they cannot live without money. After which he asks what to tell Dad and explains that he already made excuses that he worked in a stall, so he will say that he helped in the field. Lobelia explains that she cannot stop the fallen demon, and he is surprised. When Lobelia Crowley reveals that he shared the small amount of food hidden in the house. He wishes him luck and fortune, and the man with the children says that he will never forget the kindness and did not think that among people there would be kind to the demon. He then expressed his joy at the meeting and confirmed that Lobelia really thought so. The army of demons came for their own, but did not know that the children and women had been sold into slavery to merchants. Following this, the man reports the murder of men, and the girl adds that children and women were sold into slavery to the same people. He says he can't take it anymore, and she insists they need to stick together, despite the chains and suffering. Meanwhile, he admits his guilt and is surprised by his inability to do good. The days in the cold cage, tormented by guilt, were like hell. He reported that one slave had escaped and another was demanding that his handcuffs be replaced. And then a group of people say that they are running and following him, and that he couldn't have run far. Lobelia Crowley clarifies that the iron on the leg belongs to a slave and expresses regret for the chance encounter. The slave is surprised and declares he is not lost. At the same time, he says that he wants him to become his son and addresses him. He is surprised that Lobelia is the son of the Crowley family, who adopted him because they could not have children. He also received an elite education to become the next head of the family, and began attending a magic academy at the age of 12. Lobelia Crowley says his grades were outstanding and asks to borrow the book after reading it. Moreover, his cruelty grew day by day. The man explains that his broken heart, having seen hell, could not be restored. He became the best in the class, and Lobelia says that there is something more important than ratings and grades. Lobelia Crowley eventually declares that he is no longer her son, explaining that his corrupted personality has not changed, and in a voiceover it is stated that the Crowley family could not allow the problems to continue. After his father's abdication, Lobelia fell into despair and revealed that he had turned to dark magic to destroy the world that continued to betray him. After which Lobelia Crowley asks who he is, and Reynard replies that he came to stop him in the name of the hero. Lobelia fought alone for 4 days and nights against the Guild of Night Heroes. When he says that one cannot win alone with the power of friendship, and suggests accepting defeat as a chance to think about one's choice, explaining that one can still improve. He was exhausted by humiliation. A group of people walk past. He then says he will never understand this garbage and asks about the power of friendship. Lobelia Crowley threatens to send him to hell and make him suffer from despair. Lobelia then explains that he grew stronger and fought Reynard in hopes of surpassing him, but he never won, and the number of his defeats became too absurd. He reveals that he joined the Demon King's army, which destroyed his home, and explains that he was given a laxative spell, leading to his final confrontation with the hero. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley has her doubts, and he claims that the weapon will help them in battle. He claims it is a tragedy, and then Lobelia Crowley tells how after his death his past was revealed, and he won the hearts of even those who initially despised him. He says the characters in the story refuse to reveal the truth about his transformation into a villain, and the hero Reynard was completely evil. At the same time, memories of Lobelia surfaced in his mind. He died alone, his life filled with betrayal. He says he can't get away from the story and has only one path left. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley is reading a letter, and 2 men are discussing something among themselves. He claims it was ordered and asks if this is true, finding no answer. Also, Lobelia Crowley says yes. The innkeeper asks him to take his time. He's clearly afraid of him and at least didn't throw him out. Lobelia Crowley ultimately reveals that since his rebirth, he's encountered people who fear him or look at him strangely, and explains that the only way to avoid such treatment is to clear his bad reputation. He's certain there was an event somewhere where the Dragon King could have been defeated. He explains that the player must defeat the Dragon King Boros to free the people. He plans to leave tomorrow by carriage, believing that good deeds should be done quickly. Someone asks permission to ask a question, after which he called Lobelia an arrogant magician with a bad reputation and offered to share a good story so that he would work with him. He suggests watching it, and Lobelia Crowley replies that it is boring and unstylish. When she asks if he sees the hero knight there, he is surprised by the name Claudius. He says she has a strong sense of justice and hates Lobelia more than anyone else. Then he wonders why he could have been watched at the entrance to the city. Lobelia Crowley then wipes her face after being splashed with water by another man. The man with the eye patch asks how much he'll get for his capture. Lobelia says he'll jump at the chance and expresses surprise that they want to hand him over to the knights. Following this, Lobelia Crowley explains that the blows do not hurt, but being on the receiving end of the blows is annoying, and he notices this and screams. He uses the wind magic shock, strikes and knocks down the enemy, and the woman watches closely. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley reports searching for a new vacation spot, while a woman accuses him of attacking adventurers and demands an explanation. He explains that he just wanted to eat and responded with a blow, and she is surprised and says that she will not believe it if he says that he is a victim. And then Lobelia Crowley says that approaching with unproven information and beliefs shows the level of preparation of the knight's heroes, and she is too busy to waste time arguing with the enemy. He's sure she'll pull out her sword, and he knows he's angered her. He needs to do something about her sharp tongue. At the same time, she does not understand his behavior, and he claims that he prefers to be sincere. She says it's awkward, but he remains silent. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley clarifies that the passengers are connected to the Dragon King. The woman asks why he's on the carriage, and Lobelia Crowley explains that she intends to defeat the Dragon King. He claims this is her mission. If she doesn't win, everything is pointless. The man in the hat says he doesn't want to interrupt. The other man says they won't go any further. He also explains that he will leave here himself, clarifies that the stones can be destroyed with magic, but the Dragon King's lair is already close, and warns that if great magic is used, the location will be revealed. Lobelia Crowley jumps onto a rock, then turns and takes a step, and Eleanor, in armor, kneels down watching him. She ends up accusing him of lying about defeating the Dragon King and asks if he's thinking of defeating her and joining his side. And he replies that it would be better if she returned and explains that this is his hometown and he doesn't need her criticism. He leaves. She asks him to wait, after which he calls her stupid, and she falls trying to hold on. Lobelia Crowley grabs the girl's hand, helps her up, and says, "Be more careful next time." The girl apologizes. When he tells her that she has sprained her ankle, and explains that she needs an ointment for it, which can be made by mixing his herbs, since it is already getting dark and they need to get ready for the night. Lobelia Crowley assures him that his leg will be healed by morning and orders him to rest. She listens silently, looking at him. She then says it's strange and explains that she knew him as a man without an ounce of humanity or empathy. Lobelia Crowley says he's still like that, explaining that it's just to test his strength and that he has no business with her house. She asks what he'll do after defeating the Dragon King and says that if he were like that, he would leave her. Following this, he asks to surpass Reynard, and he says to think what he wants. Lobelia Crowley explains that in the original plot, the hero fought the Dragon Knight Zek to defeat the king. She is surprised that Claudia was supposed to appear as a minor character. The man asks her why she came by herself and what she intended to do. Meanwhile, he notes that the Order of Knights should not interfere in personal matters, and that it should not be discussed. He mentions that Claudia has a hidden history. She says he must liberate his land himself. He asks her not to interfere. Then she tells him he has a dirty mouth and orders him to go to bed. He thanks her, and she's surprised he's talking in his sleep. He thinks he's really been thanked. Birds are screaming in the sky above the trees, and Anna and Peter are walking on the grass. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley reports that they are in Kansas territory. He claims that with Lobelia, victory is easier and he will get rid of the villain faster. The woman warns Lobelia not to be reckless, and the man explains that the village of Glinta must sacrifice to the king once a year, and today is that day. Moreover, he refuses orders. She says there will be more of them after sunset and suggests they wait until morning and the right moment. He listens. He also notices that there are too many people around the house and expresses surprise. Lobelia Crowley creates an explosion. The girl screams for her mom and dad. The two watch in amazement. He ends up asking if they know each other, and she calls him Toto. Lobelia Crowley believes the idiot shouldn't have tried to free the victim. The man says he would have quietly handed over his daughter, while the girl cries and sobs, after which he shouts at her, and she runs away. Then he shoots his bow and says that the words about recklessness belong to her. He is surprised by the woman's appearance, and the other asks where she came from, while she attacks with a sword. When Lobelia Crowley explains that he cannot let her leave, the girl cries and closes in as he strikes her with his sword. He speaks to Claudia, and she cries and calls Lobelia by name. She then apologizes for arriving late to the girl with long hair. Lobelia Crowley insists on finding a safe place to talk while a man accuses her of killing his subordinates. Following this, he warns that he will be held accountable for this, and she orders him to leave and repels his attack. She announces the abolition of sacrificial systems. He is surprised. Meanwhile, he claims that she is full of strength, and she replies that she has no weak points, and they continue to fight. He claims that it is interesting and challenging to meet such a limited person on his way, and she is surprised and says that this cannot be and not in such a place. And then Lobelia strikes the man. He explains that if her goal is to die pointlessly, he doesn't mind. She says it's her fight. Lobelia Crowley is confident she can defeat the king on her own. She suggests they sit back, explaining that they've already killed their subordinates and can quickly reach the Dragon King's castle. At the same time, he reports that one of his important subordinates has died, and she is surprised. He asks if the Lord Dragon King knows everything, and Lobelia Crowley explains that the subordinates are his eyes. He also says Kansas is convenient, the nature is rich, there are no girls dressed up unnecessarily, and the castle is good. Then he orders the threat eliminated at any cost, to which he replies that he understands. He said that he had sent servants to the village, and the killer would not be able to resist such a number of people. He also points to the destroyed area with the bodies and the demon, shouting out a question about what is happening. Lobelia Crowley claims he wasted his time on trivialities, while the other man is surprised by their victory over everyone, calling it ridiculous. In the end, he claims that nothing happened, and she asks what's wrong. He reports problems with enemies and offers to explain the situation. Lobelia Crowley says he should have sorted it out and looks concerned. After which he says that he trusted him more than anyone, since he was the only survivor after the destruction of her clan, but it is impossible to betray such trust, and he is surprised. He apologizes and asks for forgiveness with a clenched fist, while Lobelia Crowley sits on the throne. When he says he is disappointed, the door cracks. Lobelia Crowley says they are his guests, and the man on the throne notices their rudeness but welcomes them. He then explains that they have finally met, and the woman talks about the upcoming sequel in March. She doesn't believe it, he claims it's a fact. Following this, Boros calls himself the Dragon King. Lobelia Crowley reports the loss of a subordinate and offers to become his servant. The man refuses. Lobelia Crowley notes that the response was heartless and hasty. Meanwhile, he asks if he plans to control Kansas for him, and he explains why he is challenging her. He's come to liberate Kansas, but Lobelia Crowley finds that problematic. And then the dragon explains that an equal and fair fight is impossible, and the man says that it is better to stop the feudal struggle, and even such a fool should understand this. Lobelia Crowley is surprised as a man and a woman create a magical shield. At the same time, he explains that with one swing the power is manifested, and makes a sharp movement with his hand. Lobelia Crowley. The weak bark the loudest. He seems stronger than the rest. Lobelia Crowley. What did you say? Moreover, he stops the sword with his hand, and he says that this is the most powerful sword in the world and there is only one like it. It makes a sound like a sharp object being pierced into the head. Besides, Lobelia Crowley planned to wait and caress her later, and the man is surprised that he should not die. She screams that she will kill him. He parries the blow with his sword, warns that he wants to die right now, and the other man says that things are bad. Eventually, Lobelia Crowley uses wind magic, throwing the woman away, who is surprised and falls, and he explains that he forgot that she is lighter than him and considers it too much. He explains the use of wind magic to evade attacks, expresses surprise at the rare spellbook, and suggests dark magic. He confirms this and prepares the jet-propelled black spear August Hell, after which Lobelia Crowley strikes with her sword, deflecting the arrows, and the other man says that the arrows will not be able to penetrate the defense. He strikes with his sword, causing an explosion. He dodges and explains that his attack won't work. When Lobelia Crowley dodges the sword strike, he delivers with his weapon raised. He calls it an ominous chain, and another notices the cunning move. The chains wrap around him and he screams. Lobelia Crowley then breaks her chains, smiles, and another man warns of possible danger. He claims to use Death Thunder. Following this, Lobelia Crowley screams her intention to destroy everything, and a powerful beam of light falls from the sky, causing an explosion and a storm. He lies on the broken floor among fragments and weapons. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley says he's finally broken. He asks if she's awake and then tells her to pull herself together. And then Lobelia Crowley says that no one has ever crushed him so much, and he is surprised that she is still alive. He claims that Boros has power as long as his sinister eyes gleam in the fire. At the same time, the dragon acknowledges the strength of the interlocutor and talks about his second form, and he explains that he needs to become more serious. The dragon stated that no one had brought him into such a form in the last 500 years. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley claims that a magician with a grimoire cannot compete with the dragon race, declares his intention to win, and calls the interlocutor a small fry. He claims she still allows herself such luxury and calls it nonsense. Additionally, Lobelia Crowley says that she wonders how long this will last, while simultaneously causing a disaster while the dragon attacks furiously. He asks if he should continue and notices that the dragon has changed. In the end, she declares that her name is Claudia, and her first name is Diana. She says that the book contains important information, after which she tells him to put the book away when she sits down at the table, and he explains that it is still the same book, and she explains that it is her inspiration. She asks if it's okay to go for a walk after eating, and the other one agrees, warning her to be careful. As a child, she loved the story of the female knight. She always dreamed of saving the innocent, honing her skills in the village, and her parents supported her dream. She speaks and waves her hand. She then reports that she was just scolded by her mom and dad, and Monica happily tells that a team of explorers is heading into the forest. He claims that Monica doesn't study, and she claims that Claudia will defeat all the monsters. After this, Monica wonders how it works, and the third girl explains that she is the oldest and Monica is acting like a child. She says that to become a knight, she will have to leave the village, but meanwhile, she says she doesn't want to be left without them. He says that then the nightmare began and the Demon King took control of the village. And then the castle of the knight heroes in the forest became the fortress of the Dragon King. All property was taken away, those who resisted were killed, and the sacrifice of young girls was demanded. She says that the first one was Monica, and the other two are listening to him. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley declares her intention to get rid of them and asks them to remember this, while the girl screams in pain and demands to be released. She says that Claudia is strong. He also explains that in preparation for his arrival, they dug a hole under the floor, allowing them to escape without being caught by the king's subordinates. She refuses and suggests they escape together. He explains that only a child can fit through the hole. The woman says that this is the most important thing in her life. He says that then the nightmare began and the Demon King took control of the village. In addition, the Knight Hero's castle in the forest became the fortress of the Dragon King, who took all the property and killed those who resisted, and then demanded the sacrifice of young girls. She says that Monica was the first one, and the other woman listens. In the end, the woman says that she will quickly get rid of them, and the girl asks to let her go, explaining that it hurts. She says that Claudia is strong. After which, she explains that in preparation for their arrival, they dug a hole under the floor, from which they could escape without being caught by the king's subordinates. He explains that only a child could fit through the hole. She asks them to escape together, and he says that's the most important thing for a real life. She admired the girl knight and her holy sword, then left behind her family, friends and village. When she says she's just a coward, Lobelia asks if Claudia is awake and is surprised by the magical barrier, asking if it was working all this time. She then decided to face the dragon alone, to defeat Boros and restore peace to the village. The dragon praised her for her fortitude, but doubted it would be enough. The dragon declares the completion and beginning of the final ritual, the dragon's tear. The girl then runs to Lobelia Crowley, who is preparing a magic ball. He is surprised, calling Claudia, and the dragon asks what's going on. Monica screams at her parents and raises her sword to strike her opponent. Meanwhile, she attacks the dragon with her sword when it opens its mouth to attack. Lobelia Crowley says it's not much longer and asks her to be quiet. He confirms he knows and lifts her into his arms. And then the fear of the dragon is determined by its power to restore blood. The dragon tires as expected. He asks for restraint. He says that you need to land a strong blow to defeat the boss in one powerful blow. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley commands the gates of fear to be opened. The dragon gives an offering to the imaginary beasts. In addition, the dragon casts the illusory gates of hell. The dragon screams and breaks free from its chains, and the door slams behind it. Furthermore, Lobelia Crowley says that she doesn't know where the door leads, adding that she has no idea either. The man explains that the roaring and anomalies in the sky are caused by black magic. The woman is horrified, and the group realizes the arrogant mage is nearby. The little one says he's not welcome here at all. Eventually, Lobelia Crowley considers it time to return to the village, and the woman screams that they should be ashamed, frightening the man and girl. A woman says he freed them from tyranny, while another is outraged that she couldn't defeat the Dragon King alone. The girl apologizes to Lobelia Crowley for the frightened people, and he explains that he didn't defeat the dragon for a reward or payment, after which Lobelia thanks, and the man calls her. The man thanks the magician, the woman and the elderly man also express gratitude. When he says thank you, he looks into the distance, standing on the road near a stone wall. Several people discuss plans at the Knights Guild headquarters a few days later. Then the maid announces that she has brought a letter for Master Reynard. He asks if it's from Claudia and is surprised to learn that Lobelia is the one who defeated the Dragon King. A woman is surprised that Lobelia saved someone again, and another woman says that Lobelia is amazing. Following this, Lobelia Crowley says she intends to help those in need in the next country, but faces difficulties due to her notoriety and harsh remarks. The man and woman refuse to help. She says she's hungry and asks for help, and he explains that he's presented himself with an excellent opportunity. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley denies knowing the character, but agrees to the offer to eat dried meat, recalling that it was delicious. He asks her name, Rydia. Katesett replies that she is the daughter of the chieftain of the Beastmen tribe and says that he will be surprised. And then he says he's leaving, and she wonders where he's going. She's a selfish woman, running away from her father's restrictions, ruling the tribe. She screams that she'll kill everyone, explaining how they dare call her useless. He says that only her name is revealed in the game and that his help is useless. She threatens to capture him and return him to the Beastmen. He warns that further intrusion will make him an ally of the villains. At the same time, she asks for a reward for saving her, and he is surprised. After which, she promises to become his wife. He refuses. She also says she's fallen in love with him and asks if it's not an honor. He explains that he doesn't think so, asks her to go home, and calls her a stupid cat. Lobelia Crowley says he has no time for those who brought trouble upon themselves. She demands he stop, then screams, at least like a pet, and meows. He also explains that fever is natural for a fugitive without a plan and calls it problematic. A woman eats. Lobelia Crowley says the smell of food woke her up. In the end, he tells her to eat it before it gets cold, and she thanks him and tries the food. Lobelia Crowley says she's eating porridge with eggs. She's surprised by the taste. He's happy she'll be his. He doesn't care about the little rat and advises her to hurry home if the fever has broken. She refuses. He then asks if she ran away because she hated her tribe. She replies that she needs to meet someone and explains that Rachel is learning magic in a place called Noah. She explained that according to the chief's rules, one cannot leave the forest, and was surprised that she would have to meet someone for the last time. When Lobelia Crowley explains that in exchange for doing everything he will do something, the interlocutor will become the chief. She thanks him and hugs him. He then asks her to stop bothering him. She asks if someone is hunting him, and explains that two night heroes are hunting him. She suggests setting up an ambush here. He objects. He then explains that their mission is to retrieve the Beastmen princess and warns that if they are killed, war will be inevitable, and she is surprised that this is precisely the case. Lobelia Crowley reports landing in an open space. A girl warns of an attack from behind, and a man calls the opponents idiots. Meanwhile, he uses the breath of the spirit of fire, releasing fire arrows and protecting the girl, then notices something behind him. Lobelia Crowley reminds Jake of his promise not to kill, to which he replies that he didn't expect to find himself in this situation. Then the hooded man says he hadn't heard that the arrogant mage would be her bodyguard. The woman asks Jake if he can kill Lobelia, and he explains he'll be watching from behind. Lobelia Crowley laughs and screams as he watches her jump with her weapon in hand. At the same time, he deflects a blow from a woman with a staff, then repels an attack from another man with a hooded weapon. Lobelia Crowley strikes, and the girl with the gun asks why he doesn't attack back. He also says he wants to talk, and I ask what they should discuss. He then explains that it's about the criminal who helped the princess escape, or the kidnapper. He offers to listen to them, and she notes that he hasn't done anything yet. The man explains that he doesn't intend to be hostile to them. Furthermore, Lobelia Crowley claims the ability to kill them at will, while the man and woman express the possibility with reservations. The woman tells the princess that she needs a legitimate excuse to escape. The prince explains that it's necessary to meet a friend. In the end, she argues that these knights are not so bad. Lobelia Crowley claims the knights might let them go if she tells the truth. The girl is hesitant, but Lobelia Crowley insists so Rydia can escape into the forest. She then delivers a powerful kick to the man's face, who looks at her in surprise. She kicks the hooded man in the face. When she asks if the princess will fight, Lobelia Crowley explains that she doesn't understand why her subordinate is lying on the floor, and the man shouts that this is all they can do and demands an explanation. She screams he is surprised, then screams that the mission is not important and orders him to just die. The girl then takes aim and shouts that the cannibal's attacks won't harm her, and Lobelia Crowley explains that she needs to stop running in circles. He explains that Berserk mode removes restrictions and allows one to absorb blood. The girl is surprised, and he asks about Berserk mode. Following this, Lobelia Crowley attacks, and the man picks up the girl and claims that everything is fine. Lobelia Crowley says that he has pride and cannot leave his husband in trouble, and that no one would want to marry her, and explains that in this form, Zordy is unstoppable, although he does not want to confront the Order of Knights, while the girl with ears screams. Meanwhile, she explains that the chains are evil and strikes, breaking them, and he is surprised that she was able to break them and orders her to die. He falls into a crater. Lobelia Crowley explains whose attack it might have been. Then he tells them to leave quickly, explaining that reinforcements have been sent and that they'll be caught if they don't hurry. He explains that the situation has changed and promises to buy them time, for which he receives gratitude. Lobelia Crowley said he was able to express himself directly and hoped to meet his friend. At the same time, he apologizes. He considers her ignorant and young, so he expects her to make mistakes. She claims she never makes mistakes. He explains that mistakes are inevitable and will lead to greater suffering. Moreover, he claims that as long as she is alive, everything can be fixed, and explains that getting up after falling is what life is about. He claims that all efforts will be rewarded. He also reflects on the consequences of the events, and she asks what happened, and he replies that nothing happened. He claims the voice is familiar, but he doesn't believe the body's personality is now within him. Perhaps it's just his imagination, and he's not worried. In the end, Lobelia Crowley says that they are at the Hill of Flowers, and he and the girl are walking together. He is holding a staff. She hits the target, then turns around and asks who's there. After which Rachel calls Rudia, who replies that she missed her, and Lobelia Crowley introduces herself and asks for her name, to which the girl explains that she doesn't know and is only a partner without a name. Lobelia Crowley thanks her friend for accompanying her and explains that low-level magic won't harm anyone. She asks Rachel what happened and explains that she heard a crying voice. When Lobelia Crowley says it's wonderful, the other man is surprised and asks if it's that incredible book of spells. He also says it's bad and asks if he knows who he is. He explains that this is the first time he's seen a genuine specimen and wants to see it at least once. He invites them inside and says the gift was given out of pity. Lobelia Crowley then explains that the book only reveals its contents to the person she chooses, and he is surprised that the book won't open and thought he would finally read one. She insists they'll definitely be chosen and there's no need to despair. He explains that if that happens, he'll give in. She then greets him as the Beastman Princess Rydia and thanks him for caring for her friend Rachel. He replies that it's a great honor and honestly admits that he's being cared for. She reports that she obtained a cure from the tribe for their dwindling magical power. He notes that it will help the Beastmen suppress their magical depletion. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley notes her interest as a mage, Rydia claims she can be useful, and the man talks about the time spent working on the clock. She calls him a hopeless teacher. He reminds her it's time to go home. She's surprised that time has passed so quickly. He suggests they go back. And then he suggests holding their horses, explaining that they are being chased, and warns that they could become suspects if they stay, so it is better to sacrifice for the well-being of the student. She asks him to wait and says that she has something for him, and he asks him to accept it. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley is surprised by the wedding rings. He and she explain that they are magical objects. He asks how they knew about the wedding. He appreciates the gift of magical tools and says it was the first time he'd ever touched a real spellbook. Accepting the gift, he explains that his student had been depressed, but he saw her smile again. In addition, the man and woman wish the best during the trip and health, and the girl thanks them. She asks if these are really magic rings, and he explains that he feels energy coming from them and calls it a magic ring. Furthermore, Lobelia Crowley explains her abilities to Rydia after her visit to the Great Forest and asks her to reveal her true name. Rydia is surprised and asks if he's in love with her, to which he replies in the negative. He introduced himself, she was surprised and said that he was a famous wizard. She eventually found out that he was kinder than she thought. Lobelia Crowley is surprised by his kindness, to which the girl asks what's wrong with him. Lobelia identifies himself, and the four onlookers turn their attention to them. He then explains that they are surrounded by humans and demi-humans. The man insists that everything is fine and that his tribesmen have come to pick her up personally. The girl urges the princess to move faster. Lobelia Crowley tells him to go, and he looks at her silently. Once Jake calmly escapes and delivers the message, everything will go smoothly. But it could kill them, as they're on the brink of life and death. Lobelia Crowley claims to sense Zordia and Jake's dark magic, but he denies any involvement, shouting, "Shut up!" He then screams that he is wounded and falls to his knees, and the woman calls for Lobelia. There is a prisoner in the underground prison of the headquarters of the Order of Heroic Knights. He then explained that he couldn't escape because he was in a cage with shackles that limited his magical powers, and was surprised that Jake was in such bad shape that he couldn't wake up. He warns that fighting will damage his reputation, and Reinhard won't listen to him. Lobelia Crowley worries that things could end badly and calls for Lobelia. Meanwhile, she says that a lot of time has passed. He asks Lien. She is glad that he remembers her, and then explains that she heard about the incident with the members of the order, but was not involved in it, and he assures that he knew this. She believed in Lobelia and knew he wouldn't commit such a brutal act. She asks him to wait to convince them otherwise, but he explains that it's not necessary. And then Lobelia Crowley says it's his problem, and she's still in his debt and just wants to be useful to him. He explains that the only place for Lien, after all, is here. She claims to be a princess and offers to help, but he refuses. At the same time, Yugal shouts what the princess is doing. She explains that she has deep feelings for Lobelia, and Lobelia thinks that he heard some kind of joke. Lobelia Crowley says she hopes for a recovery, and Reinhard replies good morning and explains that he doubts a person without solid evidence. Besides, Lobelia is the only mage who uses dark magic. He must ensure that his friends are not hurt again. Lobelia agrees and listens. He says he has to go and leaves everything to her. His hand relaxes on the bed, and she looks at him in surprise. Also, Lobelia Crowley says he came and he comes up the stairs. He's surprised. The man says he hadn't heard from him for months and didn't expect him to do anything to his friends. He ends up challenging Lobelia Crowley to a duel, and she calls him an idiot and suggests they talk first. He replies that there's nothing to talk about with someone like her. He claims he didn't do it, and the man claims there is evidence. He then tells Lobelia that he never asks her, and she explains that he really wants to fight her. Lobelia Crowley says that he would like to fight him before the statement, but if he fails, it will anger the others, and in that case, come what may, after which he opens the book. When he talks about the battle with the hero Reinhard, he prepares for the fight with a sword in his hands. He attacks Lobelia Crowley, who claims his power is superior to his own and advises him to put down his sword. He then refuses and shouts that he didn't hurt his friends. He explains that Zordi did it and suggests asking whoever was there. He claims that they may never wake up again. Following this, Lobelia Crowley asks about the power of the Holy Sword, after which he strikes and warns not to underestimate it. He attacks Lobelia and asks why he doesn't believe her. He explains that the hero must try to understand him. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley yells that he is considered a villain because he is Lobelia, and another man explains that it is stupid and enough. He claims that he will soon get everything, and the man with the sword notices a black circle around himself. Then Lobelia Crowley casts the dark spear spell, but it misses. He says that a real hero wouldn't be knocked down and the rest would just stand by. At the same time, he accuses her of irresponsibility, and she claims that he seeks to destroy not only his comrades, but also the leader. Lobelia Crowley refuses. He tells about the challenge to a duel and the cut. The man orders them to stop the quarrel. Moreover, he claims that this is their duel, and offers to defeat the enemy together if he cannot overcome him alone. He orders them to move forward, and Lobelia Crowley claims that victory is his. In addition, he reflects arrows with his sword, and he attacks confidently, dodging projectiles and striking back. He recites the name of the flame spirit breathing technique and uses fire magic with concentration. Eventually, Lobelia Crowley explains that Rydia left the forest to meet an old friend, and he accuses her of hurting her comrades and stealing Princess Rydia. Noting that he is getting stronger, he declares that he will lie, while the other man stabs him with a sword. After which, Lobelia Crowley explains that it's impossible for someone like him to do good deeds. She says he's no longer her son and won't be able to overcome them, calling this true loneliness. He rejected all the people without listening to them and got hit in the face. When Lobelia Crowley explains that he is not great just because he is a hero of justice, and asks if he should be hated just because he is Lobelia. He wants to live happily and be recognized. He then says that he too has the right to make someone happy, explains that he has a reason to protect others, and is surprised, asking why he is crying. Lobelia Crowley notices that it's not Reinhardt, but someone else. She can't feel her body. Following this, the man grabs the other man by the hand, with blood in his mouth, and says, "Enough," and the standing man orders him to stop. Lobelia Crowley tells the man it's over. Meanwhile, he explains that the game's main character is Elsha, and wonders why exactly her. Lobelia Crowley informs Reinhardt that the battle is over. And then Reinhardt states that the battle is over and he has almost had his revenge, while the other points out that such behavior is not typical for him, as he does not usually kill and does not have complete confidence. Lobelia Crowley admits error. At the same time, he claims that he did not kidnap the princess and did not attack Zordi and Jake, while the other demands to provide evidence. He asks if the other person is sure, and the other accuses him of hypocrisy. Moreover, he claims that the man will not find support, despite his efforts. She claims that he saved them. Besides, the homeland would continue to be under pressure without him. Lobelia initially didn't believe she could defeat the dragon, but now she trusts him. The royal knights arrived on Liana's orders to protect Lobelia, and he helped them. She asks him to stop swinging his sword at an innocent man and calls it a lie. In the end, he blames Lobelia, who asks them to admit they are wrong, holding back tears. He stated that no one asked her to, after which they explain they can't help. He shouts that he always works, then drops to his knees. The three gather together to discuss the situation. Lobelia Crowley says that the wound takes time to heal and he feels pain, but is willing to endure it. When he says he doesn't want to die anyway and hates bad endings. She claims that Lobelia saved someone and now there are people who understand him, so she asks him not to die. Then he says that you need to live, and she explains that you need to live. She explains that she doesn't believe it, and he says that he doesn't understand what's happening. He then reports that Elsha and Lobelia have disappeared. She is surprised by this information. She asks where she is, explains that a bright light has enveloped Lobelia near her, explains that she can hear a faint sound of wind from the other side and hopes to recognize the owner of the cave when she finds the exit, and Lobelia asks where she is going. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley explains that he cannot believe how scared she was before the description, and she asks not to be reminded of it anymore. He explained that the wizard had given him a ring with 2 spells. One healed the wounds from the holy sword, and the other teleported him to a random location. After he drove away the goblins, she was surprised that his wounds had healed so quickly. And then she apologizes and he says everything is fine. Lobelia Crowley informs them that they will leave the area after the storm passes. The howling of the wind surprises her. The man explains that he realized the situation from the abnormal weather and calls the place the Devil's Continent. At the same time, these are barren lands with anomalous weather, where the strongest races and monsters survived. The first conflict between humans and demons took place here, lasting over 100 years. Reinhard says they are in the south of the Devil Continent, and the woman quietly calls him by name. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley insists that no one will mistake him for a kidnapper. His head is spinning from the teleportation. He warns that their delay could lead to his death. Lobelia explains that Reinhard will tirelessly search for Elsha because of his love for her. He announces a new mission. Lobelia also reports that they've run out of potions to maintain their temperature. He explains that a storm wiped out all the clouds last night. She then asks why he seems so angry when he meets Reinhard. He refuses to explain, and she is interested in the consequences. Ultimately, Lobelia Crowley tolerates the reincarnations, but she is surprised by the enormous scorpions. He advises using fire magic, and together they attack the creatures with fireballs. He asks her if she gets tired so quickly, and she replies that she is not tired at all. After which Lobelia Crowley says the battlefield is unfamiliar and the girl is useless. He demands she shut up, explaining that he's not that weak. The girl becomes angry, and he notices her stubbornness and envies Reinhard's attraction. She doesn't understand why he didn't leave her in the cave if she wasn't transported by his will. He explains that he did it for Reinhard's sake, to prevent him from becoming a murderer. She calls him too kind. He doubts Reinhard deserves forgiveness. When Lobelia Crowley explains that her only problem is her blind love for Reinhard, and says that he will not let her die despite her protection. He explains that it is not beneficial for him, and he wants her, as the main character of the game, to live a happy life and find her happiness. It is then revealed that deep within her soul lies a power capable of turning the world upside down and keeping it in harmony, and if she loses this power, the world will simply collapse. He claims that many are seeking to take possession of her power, so it is necessary to protect her at any cost. Following this, he announced that he was tired of helping everyone and decided to take a nap. She says that Lobelia shouldn't help her. Maybe he's just trying to take advantage of her. Meanwhile, she claims that she did not notice any monsters and hopes for safety, but suddenly screamed when something exploded nearby. He falls to the floor. She explains with fire in her hand that this is a labyrinth, and from above the moon is visible through a hole in the ceiling. Then she explains that the exit is too high to reach, and they need to find a way to the surface. She then explains that she managed to escape Lobelia, but feels helpless and regrets her delusional words to Reinhard, confessing how much she missed him. She explains what happened and asks if there might be anyone else here. then decides to get out of there and runs towards the exit. At the same time, she explains that this is not just a stone, but an eye that is beginning to open. He sees a monster with many eyes and a mouth, and she says she doesn't understand what's happening. Moreover, he is surprised how he could not notice that she ran away from him while he was dozing, and explains that the tracks are fresh. He claims that the labyrinth was nearby and suggests that this may be a red herring. Furthermore, Lobelia Crowley claims that the likelihood of encountering monsters here is higher than usual. She explains that Elsha is incapable of fighting and could have been defeated, and insists on going to the boss room, as it's not that difficult. He claims to have practiced the game here many times, then lands on the ground as the spiked creature watches him. As a result, Lobelia Crowley claims that these beings also have their own rank. Promises to relieve stress. Lobelia Crowley then concentrates the energy into her fist and delivers a powerful blow, causing an explosion. He destroys the flying monster with a strike, then surrounds himself with fire and points the way to the boss room. When he explains that it is a door, he kicks it open. Lobelia Crowley says she has a lot of problems and the creature is asking for help. He then deftly picks up the girl in his arms and creates a magical charge that falls down with a powerful explosion. Lobelia Crowley says they will have time to talk later, then complains of pain from the blow. Following this, Lobelia Crowley repels the monster's attack, and the girl calls out to him in alarm. He explains that the monster recovers quickly, making it difficult to fight in a long battle. He tried using Lobelia's dark magic, which kills in one hit, but it drained too much of his strength. Meanwhile, Lobelia apologizes for the troubles and explains that she didn't mean to cause trouble and die, and he says that he just needs to keep a closer eye on her. Lobelia Crowley says she stands out among fools and is a desperate fool. He asks if she has anything to say, and she thanks Lobelia for saving her. And then he promises not to do it again, and she agrees. Lobelia Crowley told Elsha that he needed to visit the city of Arcadia, even if it meant walking twice as far. At the same time, she is surprised by the name Arcady and says that she heard about a place led by Reinhard. Arcadia is located in the northwest, close to the sea. The protagonist fought the Demon King. There's a shortage on the continent and managing the cities is difficult. Moreover, the village suffers from a food shortage. Lobelia Crowley explains that at the end of the story, Reinhard learns of this and falls into despair, but still decides to take responsibility. The image shows a gate with a wooden fence and part of a figure on the left. Additionally, Lobelia Crowley claims it is Arcadia and dodges the arrow. He asks who they are and where they came from. The other replies that they also want to know who he is. Eventually, Lobelia Crowley explains that they lost their home during the war. She begs for help. A man demands they put away their weapons, while another explains they've come a long way and offers to show them everything. He reports that there is work in the city due to preparations for the holiday, to which another man offers to speed up. After which Lobelia Crowley reports on the many beggars in the city, and he explains that he is unable to help everyone. The dog is lying next to them. She didn't know that Arcady was in such a state. When Reinhard admits he didn't know about this, the woman explains that society is unwilling to help demons due to past hostility. He says that without food, a pathetic human cannot regain his strength, offering her some. She thanks for the food and remains calm. He then says the food is much tastier than rats or monsters, and explains that they should thank the villagers for the treat. She is surprised by the taste and asks about the special spices, to which he asks her to keep quiet and eat. Lobelia Crowley explains that there is someone behind him, and the three people outside the window are surprised and scream. Following this, she asks what they will do, and he explains that he does not know what to do next. Three people eat, then one of them gives thanks for the food. Meanwhile, Ars announces that they came to say hello. Jessica complains about home-cooked food, and Rue regrets the end of the ship's service several months ago. Lobelia Crowley asks what they think of the hero. He explains that help hasn't arrived for 3 months. The three respond that the hero is a liar, a hypocrite, and a villain. Then he says that was a bit harsh and suggests first teaching the three how to survive in a cruel world. Then he asks if they want to become stronger, to which the three answer yes. She's surprised he doesn't plan to spend half his life with them. He asks what she's even thinking and explains that he'll be training everyone, so they need to be prepared. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley tells him that he needs to go to patrol before dark, and she explains that she understands and wants to be careful. He reports that the locals shared food with them despite not having any themselves, and offers to thank them, adding that food can be easily obtained here. Moreover, he heard the roar of a boar and was glad of the successful completion. Lobelia Crowley shoots a boar. He also quickly found a huge pig and offered to bring it. He orders them to carry as much as they can, then shouts, and Lobelia Crowley announces that the Dragon King Boros is at their service. Eventually he tells her to wait, and the other man explains that he has no hostile intentions and asks her to remove the Spear of Annihilation. He calls himself a bastard, wonders why the other is alive, and Lobelia Crowley explains that the gates of hell offered him a choice: become Lobelia's loyal servant or join the creatures within. After which he stated that he had sincerely decided to serve under another. Lobelia Crowley declares he has no intention of backstabbing and pledges to sincerely swear loyalty upon his release. He is amazed that the dragon race has always followed the strongest. When he says to come back, he explains that he doesn't like to hear this from a villainous womanizer. He offers to prove his usefulness here and now, and the other asks to stop and confirms this. Lobelia Crowley offers to deliver the meat to the city entrance undetected, and he agrees. He then says he can return to the spellbook at any time and suggests they go. He finds this useful and decides to take advantage of the opportunity before betraying her. He asks, and those around him watch attentively. Following this, Lobelia Crowley says he doesn't like just receiving and asks to be notified if there's anything left. The man and woman say they're glad Mr. Tory has arrived and are amazed he was able to kill such a carcass on his own. He asks that his arrogance not be mentioned and agrees to the hunt. The man offers to join the hunt in the Valley of the Devouring Bones and thanks him. Meanwhile, Ellie asks to join and explains that she wants to help since Tori taught her attack spells and the importance of real battle experience. The man says that the more people the better and they will go hunting in 5 days, and the other man confirms and asks to do their best. Lobelia Crowley notes that Tori is a good teacher. Tori claims they haven't killed so many monsters before, but the mage will be fine now. And then he says that there should be low-level monsters in the valley, and is surprised that killing Gorgros could have agitated the monsters in the area, then warns to be careful. Lobelia Crowley says the beast is invulnerable to the sword, but it screams that it will not give up despite its wounds. At the same time, a man asks what happened and if anyone was killed. He notices the sudden chaos and says that everyone needs to get out of here first. Another man warns that a group of monsters is approaching from the east. Lobelia Crowley states that she will take care of the rest. The woman notes that there is nothing left to be done, and he provides assistance to the wounded man. He also explains that he cannot fight and grips the hilt of his sword, holding back the pain. Lobelia Crowley says Elsha. Additionally, the animal fights by delivering rapid strikes that cause several other animals to fall dead. Lobelia Crowley attacks the two attacking beasts with her staff, blocking their attack. In the end, he refuses to help, and she cries, kneeling next to the sword. Lobelia Crowley says to Elsha and then hugs her, after which he explains that he no longer sees her as a defenseless heroine, and she says that she was alone in the labyrinth and thought that she had to become stronger. He claims the others continue to protect him, but she admits she couldn't help when needed and can't look the knights in the eye. Afterward, she turns to Lobelia, asking what to do. While he taught men how to hunt, she taught women how to cook. He shared his knowledge with the children. Lobelia Crowley then reveals that he has taken Ars, Jessica, and Rue under his wing and taught them magic. She notes that the city is more lively, Ars is enjoying his success, and the two children are eager to try. He asks Elmi if she doesn't feel great. She responds by asking what he means. Following this, she says that he already has someone he likes and who protects him, and although his protector looks a little scary, he is also a handsome man, like from a fairy tale. Lobelia Crowley claims that Mr. Tory is protecting her for some reason, while admitting that she likes him, but she is not sure if he has feelings for her. Meanwhile, she claims she has no romantic feelings, explaining that it is not about that, while another man says she always teases him and asks if she is unhappy. She asks why he wanted to help these people, and he explains that there is no need for a reason. Then Lobelia Crowley explains that people can change if they choose the path of redemption. She says he's gone too far and asks if he'll ever be forgiven. He replies, "Who knows?" He declared that he would no longer cause suffering and, if necessary, would follow the path of redemption throughout his life. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley offers to walk this path together and asks if it will be okay. And he wonders, what if so? He claims that he can handle it himself. She has friends. Besides, Lobelia Crowley says she has business tomorrow and will go first, and he explains that's fine. After which she apologizes and admits she said something stupid, agreeing that he's right. He says good night. She thanks him. He also asks her not to tell him that she wants to spend the rest of her life with him. Lobelia Crowley attacks the target, then complains about missing. Finally, the morning training is over, time to eat. Alicia, thanks to her physique, moves nimbly and has become the best in Arcadia in just a few months. Lobelia Crowley said they shouldn't overdo it. He said good morning to the teacher, and she returned the favor to Mistress Ellie, after which he promises to teach her advanced magic. The girl remains silent. He demonstrates an explosive spell and then explains that he doesn't intend to use it. He trained the students all morning, and Lobelia Crowley explained that she was focusing on her fingertips. When the man counts on Tori during the hunt, he agrees and explains that he helped with various chores during the day. He says it's an ordinary day and perhaps the peace he's been dreaming of. Then one of them reports that they caught another big guy, and the other adds that the number of victims has decreased and it has become calmer. He claims that everything is going according to plan, and he will be able to restore his reputation. Following this, she reports that Mr. Tori is in town, at the port of Arcadia a few hours ago. Meanwhile, the man informs the knights about the arrival of the ship of the Order of Heroic Knights with supplies. He says that the spiritual church is a discriminatory organization that hates and persecutes demons, which the townspeople do not recognize, and he wonders why the spiritual church is associated with them. Then Elisha is surprised to meet Mr. Elliot. He explains that he was searched for and sent to the demon continent, but someone helped him. Elliot is grateful, and Elisha is happy to hear it. He reports that Reinhardt hasn't arrived and has left him to handle all matters. Lobelia Crowley remarks that his presence would have caused problems. The man is outraged that they tried to starve them to death without Mr. Tori's help, calling the situation dire. At the same time, he claims that they were promised safety, and the other man explains that it was difficult for them. He orders the man to be silent, reproaches the priest for his failure, and encourages the girl, promising to cleanse Arcadia and warning her to resist. Besides, Lobelia Crowley says it's the devil, and he says the word something. He assures that everything will be fine as long as the girl, and he asks the master to save Rue. Furthermore, Lobelia Crowley explains that it is poison, and he says that he is not afraid of death and is ready to die. He explains that the potion won't revive the dead, a fact she hears with pain. After the incident, he and the knights searched the city for survivors, but found only 30. He eventually reports that Alicia has also disappeared, claims that with her skills she couldn't have died, and suggests that she is also looking for survivors. Lobelia Crowley says that the spiritual church and the Order of the Night Heroes collaborated, resulting in the destruction of many demons. He then explains that in the original story, Emiot said that poverty came to Arcadia due to lack of supervision, and internal conflicts led to its destruction. Reinhard trusted his friend and had no doubt about it. When one says there is no need to worry, the other explains that he is always ready to help. He thought that the restoration of Arcadia would bring peace, but everything was destroyed within hours, although everyone found the meaning of life and began to live happily. Lobelia Crowley then says she is glad she is alive, and the man asks what they should do next. He asks what it means. The man explains that Ellie was taken by those men, that she protected them when they were almost killed. Then Elliot appeared and told her to come with him, and then they wouldn't be harmed. Following this, she claims that he is lying and almost everyone was killed, but she managed to escape. She claims that Ellie was simply taken away, while Lobelia Crowley claims the opposite. Meanwhile, he ponders whether he should copy Lobelia to survive, and questions his motives for doing so. Lobelia Crowley is willing to become anything for the sake of those dear to him and take back what was taken from him. He is not a Tory, but an arrogant magician. Then Alicia asks how he can drink after killing innocents. He tells her to stop sulking and have fun, explaining that today is a wonderful day. Lobelia Crowley believes that giving birth to a demon is sinful and strikes the man on the neck. At the same time, he reports losing his mind after arriving on the demon continent, and the other man is surprised by her gaze. He claims she's always been hiding behind Reinhardt's back and is now pretending to be important. She explains that he was only kept alive for this reason. He also promises to marry her, but warns her that no one will come to her aid if she asks him to save her. She begs him to stop. She asks Lobelia to save her. Lobelia explains that it's a name. He then asks what the sound is as he leaves the room. Furthermore, the hooded group stands together without saying a word. Lobelia Crowley announces that from now on, in the end, he calls it the beginning of hell. Lobelia stands before him, orders a barrier to be created, and begins an attack. The priest warns them that they are trapped and asks for protection from the monsters. Lobelia Crowley then screams, "Die!" attacking the man, who explains he has a magical barrier. Lobelia Crowley clutches her face. He orders not to run away, striking the enemies with a dark spear, and then the praying one asks to save him. When Lobelia Crowley says that the god they worship is worthless and that he is making them experience the suffering they caused Arcadia, he then asks if Alicia is inside, noting that it is the only room with an open door. Lobelia Crowley says that Alicia has a bruise, and Alicia is surprised, inviting Lobelia over. Lobelia Crowley then explains that she trembles at the sight of blood on his hands and says that he now looks like a villain. She cries and says she believed and was sure of his coming. He explains that it's foolish to believe in him, asks her to drink a restoration potion, and notices the potion's strange color. Following this, Lobelia Crowley says that she must drink when he commands, and she explains that she understands. He explains that the medicine acts as a sedative and will prevent Alicia from seeing the horror outside. She tries it and says it's a bit bitter. The cloaked man explains that the enemies have been destroyed, but they can't find ours. Meanwhile, Lobelia Crowley informs him that ours is the best in advanced magic and is helping him avenge Rue. However, Lobelia Crowley believes he made a mistake in bringing him along, which surprises ours. He reports the presence of enemies on the ship and plans to investigate and find ours. The man orders them to leave and return to the boat. And then Lobelia Crowley orders them to leave, explains that after the explosion the ship won't last long. He won't let anyone die and warns that if they look for everyone together, they will sink faster. Arles's apprentice, and he shouts that the master is in danger. At the same time, Lobelia Crowley offers to kill him, promising to let him go, and reveals that Alicia mentioned his name, asking about a possible relationship between them, while another man wonders where the Arcadians got such a protector. He states that if someone must be killed, then it must be done, and that the teacher will avenge Rue and the others, ordering the mouth to be closed and the hiding shackles to be used. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley notices that the sacred weapons abilities have been reversed. He throws the bound man down and, relieved, announces that he's alive. He says he didn't manage to break the chains and shows a cure for black magic. Another claims to be human and spouts nonsense, asking if this is a friend from the demonic clan. He also says that he is sickened by such people, and then explains that he is completely out of his mind, and tells how demons torment family and friends, forcing them to endure bitterness, pain, torture, and abuse. Lobelia Crowley calls him a naive brat. He warns her not to speak arrogantly to him and decides to shield ours from him. In the end, Lobelia Crowley says that she doesn't understand why he should fight for others, and he replies that he's not going to give in to such a scumbag, and Lobelia Crowley explains that he doesn't care what his opponent thinks. He says that both Elliot and Lobelia were villains driven by a thirst for revenge and hurt Rue and his friends. Lobelia Crowley then explains that the sacred weapon swaps the wielder with the target, but requires a long recharge and has a limited range. so he cannot use other powerful spells to create a portal that consumes the entire ship. He claims that his death will be painful and terrible, causing him to experience horror before the end and suffering. When he says he feels pain, Lobelia asks where Tori is, and he replies that Lady Ellie has woken up. Then he says he's still on the ship, and she says they need to go back. He explains that's impossible because Lobelia wants her safe. Even if she did go back, she'd be trapped and die. She's surprised that it can't be any other way. Lobelia Crowley refuses to give up and strikes with her sword. The other man declares that he is not afraid and is ready to fight. Following this, he is surprised at his own self-confidence. He claims that even if we win, there's no escape. The ship will sink anyway. He's either overconfident or he's up to something. Meanwhile, he says that he will end everything with one blow and orders Lobelia to get ready. Lobelia Crowley explains that the weaker the dog, the louder the bark, and begins to create a magical fire circle in her hands. And then he screams, and he replies that he is not going to give up. A powerful explosion is depicted with fire and smoke effects, accompanied by sound effects. At the same time, he screams and calls for Nojairai, and Lobelia Crowley expresses irritation. After which, he begs for the torture to stop and admits that he understands. The woman falls to her knees, fragments and sparks flying around. Moreover, Lobelia Crowley asks how he got here, and the masked man calls him an arrogant magician. He claims Elliot used his ability to switch places with someone. He admits he momentarily hesitated, and Elliot exploited that. He asks if he was unconsciously sympathizing with him. Also, Lobelia Crowley says he's annoyed with Elliot, and he explains that he was just on a boat. He is surprised, and the woman asks him to save her and explains that if he saves her, the spiritual church will fully support Arcadia, and also asks to spare her, saying that Elliot forced them to do this. In the end, Lobelia Crowley realized that he was generous and would never forget it. He promises to never forget this debt. After which Lobelia Crowley informs him that the legendary gates of hell will soon be activated, and he has already wasted too much time. He apologizes for the delay and says it's time to leave. When Lobelia Crowley explains what happens when he doesn't get finished in one hit, he calls the opponent a fool. He promises Reinhar to attack the Knight's Order with full force to destroy all demons and their supporters without feeling any remorse. Lobelia then reveals to Crowley that he is the Dragon King of Boros and the mage's subordinate. He is surprised and explains that his master has forbidden him from appearing in public, and he was keeping an eye on Lobelia, who was disrespecting him. He claims he can do whatever he wants and will start by peeling off his skin piece by piece. He screams,